I wouldn't go in it. Sasquatch is here. They've always been here.
From learning about one of the most harrowing encounters with the mysterious creatures living in the caves nearby, to warnings of danger due to the presence of the elusive legend on the other side of the country, here is how the team came across something unbelievable in this mysterious cave. Wading through the muck in some of the most remote woods and forests in the Pacific Northwest, you'd find that the Expedition Bigfoot team is constantly pushing on with their search for the elusive cryptid we all know as Bigfoot. This is a search that has been going on for many decades, long before the likes of Dr. Maria Mayer and Russell Accord ever even heard of the mysterious hominid. This is because despite looking out for this creature for so long, there is no conclusive proof that Bigfoot is truly out there. Sure, many have come out of these remote woods with accounts of encounters of their own with this strange, hairy, bipedal humanoid creature. However, due to the dubious evidence of the existence of this creature, we just cannot say that this creature is out there for sure. Well, not if the Expedition Bigfoot team has anything to say about it. A harrowing tale. Forever chasing the truth regarding the existence of Bigfoot, you'd find that the Expedition Bigfoot does carry out other exercises aside from setting out on dangerous expeditions into the woods.
Right here, you see something cross the camera. It just happens so fast, but what catches my attention is the hair of what appears to be something large running by.
You'd see that the search for the truth has them following several leads in the hopes that they would finally bring an end to the search for the elusive creature. That is why Bryce Johnson, in his role as the Expedition Operations Lead, went on a trip to visit this man who claimed to have experienced a harrowing encounter with Bigfoot. As Bryce made this trip, you could see that he was excited to meet with this eyewitness, a man known as John Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell just happened to live near this interesting cave mouth. As such, Bryce hoped this man may have had some sort of experience with the legendary cryptid. If so, he was also hoping that the man would be willing to have a chat with him. Maybe such a chat could help Bryce know all about the Bigfoot activity that takes place in the area. Fingers crossed. Before long, Bryce arrives at the Caldwell residence. After being welcomed by the man's excited dogs, Bryce and John finally make their acquaintance. It didn't take too long for Bryce to get to the reason for his visit to John's home. While they were seated in the man's backyard, Bryce eagerly asked John about what he had recently experienced. John wasn't shy about what he had experienced. He wasn't shy about what other people had experienced either. Before he spoke about what recently happened to him, he wanted John to know what happened to his cousin as well.
You had some recent activity where you might have seen a few things, is that right?
Yes, I have. Well, first off, let me start with what my cousin told me. He told me that his coon dogs, 3 or 4 of them had come up missing.
You see, John's cousin had coon dogs, 3 to be exact. Unfortunately, John's cousin recently realized that his 3 coon dogs had gone missing. As if that wasn't a bad enough predicament for John's cousin, the pair had the misfortune of figuring out what had happened to the dogs. Well, sort of. You see, it was easy to figure out what happened to the dogs. Looking at the evidence in the area, it was clear that the dogs had been dragged from wherever they were. What was even stranger about this abduction was that they had been dragged away with their chains, collars, and everything. What on earth could be strong enough to drag 3 dogs away like that? Fortunately, whatever dragged the dogs away didn't seem to be strong enough to carry them away in the air. As such, it had to drag them on the ground. Thankfully, this meant that it left tracks on the ground. Eager to figure out what had happened to the dogs, John and his cousin followed the tracks up an old cat road in the area. When they went up the road, they happened to come across the chain and the collar of the dogs. That told them they were actually on track. As excited as they were to find the chain, they were soon alarmed because they realized that whatever had abducted their dog had also ripped its head off its shoulders. It makes you shudder to think of what happened to that poor dog in the final moments of its life. As you can imagine, this was a shocking discovery for John and his cousin to make. Indeed, he even told Bryce that he had never seen anything like this in his entire life. Whatever had done this has ripped the heads off the dogs so that it could take their bodies away with them. To eat? We do not know, but what we do know is how horrific the scene was for John and his cousin to find. Fortunately, the pair were able to gather themselves to search the area for more clues. This is when they came across these strange footprints. Looking at them, it was clear that they weren't any ordinary footprints. No, these footprints were quite extraordinary. According to John, they were about 16 to 17 inches long. This was larger than any set of footprints that John had seen in his entire life. Going back to the harrowing discovery of the severed heads of the dogs, John began to lean into the notion that whatever had abducted the creatures must have ripped their heads off so that it could eat the rest of the dogs later on. Not wanting to experience anything like this ever again, John's cousin decided to move the rest of his hunting dogs into his own home. At least if anything was going to get his dogs, they were going to have to go through him first. Shocked and stunned, Bryce just needed to know more about this harrowing event. Where were the heads found? To his horror, John told Bryce that they found the dogs' heads on the other side of the mountain nearby. Why isn't that where the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team is exploring as they speak? Surely that is no good, right? Well, if John's stories are true, it's either they find nothing or they find the thing that is capable of ripping dogs' heads off their bodies.
He took the rest of his hunting dogs and moved them right down next to the house.
And where did this happen? Where were the dog heads found?
Matter of fact, right up yonder, on the other side of the mountain.
The team I'm with is there in a cave right now.
Scary expedition in the caves and mountains. Finding Bigfoot on the mountain opposite John's house was no easy task. The caves were damp, dark, and inhospitable, but Dr. Maria Mayer and the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team were used to such uncomfortable conditions. After all, they had spent several years searching for the legendary cryptid in similar places. As they examined the caves, they soon realized that it may be a bit more hospitable than they first thought. For starters, there seemed to be a bed of leaves that suggested that this cave must have been some sort of shelter for some strange creature. That said, they would find it difficult to gather enough evidence to suggest this because the cave was just too big for them to explore. Well, at least at that point. The more they looked into the cave, the more openings they found in other extensions of the cave. It would take a lot of men and a lot of hours to fully explore what looks to be some sort of massive cave complex. Although they couldn't explore the entire cave, the largeness of the cave was a bit exciting for them. This is because they realized that this could be the perfect space for a large creature that was looking to evade the rest of the world. As exciting as that was at the moment, Dr. Maria Mayer was a bit worried about their discovery because she could not find the entrance. Furthermore, what could the entrance be used for? Seemed as though they had a lot of figuring out to do when it came to this massive cave complex. You'd find that this is exactly what Bryce was also trying to figure out while he was still with John. Eager to get some answers, he asked John if some creatures are using the caves for shelter. Could the creature that killed his cousin's dogs be using the cave system for shelter?
Think these creatures could be using these cave systems to hide out or take shelter?
Yes, I do. No matter if it's 30 below outside or 110 outside.
To his surprise, John believed that they did use the cave system for shelter. After all, it seemed to be the perfect temperature for anyone looking for some sort of space for shelter. According to John, no matter how hot or how cold it was outside, the temperature in the cave always seemed to be just right, 60°H to be exact. As encouraging as that may seem for anyone looking for Bigfoot or any other mysterious cryptid that may be out there, John may have alarmed Bryce and all the viewers of the show when he revealed something truly frightening. To be honest, we must have all thought about it when he mentioned that something may be using that place as shelter. He claimed that although he believed that there was something in there just looking for shelter, there was no way he was going in it. Lord, what exactly does that mean for Dr. Maria Mayer and the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team? Perhaps more alarmingly, John went straight into it. He claimed that he felt that Bigfoot or Sasquatches must live there. In fact, he believed that they had always been there, maybe even before he and his family moved into the area. Bryce almost couldn't believe this. Sure, he figured that there was an element of danger when he heard the story of the poor dogs. But how was this man sure that Bigfoot was living in there? Bryce needed to know more before he freaked out. He asked John if he ever felt threatened by any of these encounters they experienced. Did he feel his life was in danger? Interestingly, John seemed calm in his response. While he did not claim to feel threatened, he did claim he would rather be armed than not while living there. It would be better for him to be armed and not need the gun than for him to be unarmed and find that he needs it. We can only suggest what he would need his gun for. Maybe to defend himself from the legendary cryptid Dr. Maria and the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team were looking for in those dark, massive caves.
I mean, do you ever feel threatened by some of these encounters, or you ever feel like your life's in danger?
Well, I'd rather have a gun and not need it than need one and not have it.
What are in those caves? At that point in time, Dr. Maria Mayer and the rest of the team found that they had been within those caves for more than 3 hours. Upon realizing this, Ronnie LeBlanc, the team's resident researcher and author of the book Monsterland Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs, began to show his concern. That said, he knew he and the rest of the team had no choice but to push on with their exploration of the cave. For some time, that is exactly what they did. They ventured into the depths of this massive cave system, hoping to find as many clues as they could while they were in the so-called belly of the beast. The more progress they made in the caves, the more they must have felt that they were going to make an important discovery. Such feelings must have come to an abrupt end when Dr. Mayer called for the team to come to a halt. Turns out that she had heard something. Surely, something must be lurking in the darkness there. Eager to follow the sound, the team went deeper into the cave. Eventually, the team was surprised by the discovery of a small running stream. To Dr. Mayer, the fact that the stream was running was important because this increased the chances of the water being clean enough to drink. If the water down there was drinkable, then surely this must be some sort of shelter. Looking for more answers, the team followed the stream's flow. Unfortunately, this would lead them to a disappointing dead end. This was such a downer to Dr. Mayer because she was hoping that this would lead them to an exit. What a bummer. Hopefully, they would be able to find their way out of the caves before they run into whatever may be hiding in there. Tales of the strange and unusual. While Dr. Mayer and the rest of the team did what they could to find an exit point, Bryce finished up with his interview with John. As he made his way from the Caldwell residence, Bryce ran into this stranger. Turns out that this stranger had heard that Bryce and the rest of the team were in search of Bigfoot, so he wanted to give them some valuable information.
I don't know what you think about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but they are real. The government knows about them, and they're in this area.
They're in the area?
Absolutely.
The man revealed he was in the Air Force. While he was going through some training exercises in Washington State, he was surprised when his instructor revealed that regardless of what they thought about Bigfoot and Sasquatches, it didn't matter because Bigfoot was real. The instructor went on to reveal that not only were they real and were in the area, but that the government was also aware of their existence. Imagine that. Bryce tried to poke holes in this story by asking if the instructor was goofing around, but the stranger revealed that the instructor never played such games. The stranger went on to reveal that the instructor warned them about the presence of the legendary cryptid because he wanted them to be careful. He didn't want them to run into it, and if they did, he wanted them to know that they were not to engage the creature at all. This is because some recruits had engaged the creature in the past. Let's just say it did not end well for these recruits. As if that wasn't bad enough, the stranger revealed that they had to take the instructor seriously because there had been some strange disappearances in the area then. Even till date, nobody knows what happened to those people who had disappeared in the area. Well, they do know, and that is why they warn recruits not to fool around if they ever happen to run into the legendary creature known as Bigfoot when they are out there in the wild. To be honest, it looked as though Bryce just couldn't believe this. If it was true, it meant the implications were huge to him. Imagine the government hiding Bigfoot's existence from the world. Typical. When he thinks about it, Bryce couldn't help but feel that this was the first time anyone had ever told him such a wild story. Eager to learn more about this later on, Bryce asked for the man's information. His story was worth a chat later. Maybe he could even know where this man went through the training mentioned. That way, Bryce and the rest of the Expedition Bigfoot team could explore such a place. Maybe this could even bring them within proximity of the legendary cryptid that they had been searching for all this time.
The government may be aware of these things, but this is the first time anybody who served in the active military had told me that they heard that firsthand.
Before the man left, he warned Bryce about the tactics he and his team adopted when they were out there searching for Bigfoot. He knew that they often split into small teams during their expeditions and figured that this may prove to be a bad idea going forward. They may want to be a bit more careful while they are out there. Following this, the pair went their separate ways, surely with Bigfoot on their minds. A need for redirection. Later, Bryce was able to tell that story to crew members. As you can imagine, it was a bit daunting to hear about military officials who took the legend of Bigfoot seriously while they were out there training in the woods. To be honest, this just confirms that places like Washington State are prime Bigfoot territory. If so, how has this creature managed to remain elusive for so long? Think about it. Apparently, the state of Washington has experienced more Bigfoot sightings per capita than the rest of the world. If they were going to make some progress with their search for Bigfoot, they may actually need to head out to the training site. Wild stuff. Excited, Bryce couldn't wait to get to Dr. Mayer and the other guys so that he could tell them exactly what he had just learned. Unable to hold on much longer, Bryce decided to do the easy thing by calling them. Turns out Dr. Mayer was able to make it out of the cave. Once they were also able to get Russell on the call, Bryce asked Dr. Mayer about what she was able to learn when she went down the cave. Exhausted, Dr. Mayer informed them that although she was able to get to the bottom of the cave, she didn't find much. In fact, all she was able to find was this single hair. Turns out that she found it as it was attached to the ceiling of the cave.
Okay.
I found one single hair attached to the ceiling, possibly an animal that was trying to get through there, but that needs to be sent out to a lab.
Looking at it, Dr. Mayer suggested that it must have belonged to an animal that was making its way through the cave, but she didn't want to rely on her speculation. With any luck, they can get the hair back to the lab so it can be properly examined. Not wanting to be outdone by the rest of the team, Russell announced that he also found hair samples of his own. Interesting stuff. Looking at it, Russell believed that it was longer than your typical bear hair, thereby ruling out that it belonged to any bear. As for the hair color, Russell couldn't decide if it was black or brown. To him, it was this unique blend of both colors, and as such, it could turn out to be interesting. That said, Dr. Mayer did state that they may need to adopt some new strategy if they were going to make some much-needed progress in their search for the mysterious creature. Looking to take a complete change in direction from their caves, Bryce told them about the stranger and his experience when he was training with the military in Washington state. After learning about the stories of sightings of Sasquatch and Bigfoot in those areas, Dr. Mayer and Russell grew visibly excited. They knew what those types of stories meant. Is it true that the government knew of Bigfoot's presence in those areas? If so, this has huge implications for their search because this could mean that the government may actually have proof that Bigfoot is real. Looking to gain some more information on what he had heard, Bryce informed the team that he had gone through the trouble of carrying out some research. Although he wasn't sure if his research gave him answers that were specific enough, he informed the team that he may have been able to track this interesting place down to one specific place in Washington. To be exact, he was targeting this 250,000-acre stretch of wilderness that was located along the Olympic National Forest. With that coming into play, it looked like the team was ready for some redirection. Excited, the team prepared themselves for a trip to Washington state. Hopefully, this will draw them closer to the legendary cryptid that is Bigfoot. From learning about one of the most harrowing encounters with the mysterious creatures living in the caves nearby, to warnings of danger due to the presence of the elusive legend on the other side of the country, here is how the team came across something unbelievable in this mysterious cave.